Hey there, it's Solomon here, and I'll be doing a review for WWE Extreme Rules 2020. As usual, I will give my thoughts and opinions on all the matches that were on the show itself, and now I will begin my review with the first match of the card of the pay-per-view. So the first match of the pay-per-view was the Tag Team Tables match for the SmackDown Tag Team Championship. The New Day were defending the titles against Cesaro and Nakamura. The match was underway and Cesaro and Nakamura went straight to work on the New Day as they delivered some right hands to them until the New Day managed to regain momentum by executing a combination of moves on Cesaro. Then all four men were outside of the ring, all hitting certain moves on each other in this tables match. The Cesaro and Nakamura had a table set up in the ring and looked like they were going to put Kofi Kingston through the table until his tag team partner Biggie came to break things up. Then Biggie was about to powerbomb Nakamura through the table until he managed to get himself off. Then he sped Biggie through the ropes of the ring onto the outside of the ring. Then Kofi launched himself off his tag team partner to hit the table that Cesaro and Nakamura were carrying, but the table was not broken, so the match continued. Then the New Day were on the outside of the ring and set up a table on top of the table that was already set up by Nakamura. Biggie attempted to superplex Cesaro from the top rope to the outside of the tables, but he managed to break the hold. So when it came towards the end of the match, Cesaro was perched onto the top rope and Kofi attempted to do a hurricanrana off the top rope to him, only for Nakamura to break the move and assist Cesaro to powerbomb Kofi Kingston off the top rope onto two stacked tables on the outside of the ring to win the match. And thus Cesaro and Nakamura are your new SmackDown Tag Team Champions in convincing fashion. So when the match was over, Cesaro came to the announce table and presented the title to Michael Cole to say to him that he was tired of being overlooked and they wanted to be taken seriously as Tag Team Champions. So yeah, this was a decent match, but it was a very short match, so I thought it was alright, but it could have been longer in all honesty. Okay, so the second match of the pay-per-view was a Women's SmackDown Championship match. Bayley, with the company of her friend Sasha Banks, was defending her championship against Nikki Cross with the company of her friend Alexa Bliss. So the match was underway and both had each other in combination of hold moves. And at one point, Nikki was gaining momentum in the match as she delivered a right hand and neck breaker on Bayley. And then she went for the cover only for Bayley's kick out and a quick fall. Then both women were on the outside and she hit a tornado DDT on Bayley. Then she brought her back into the ring. Nikki then went up onto the top rope to deliver a flying crossbody onto Bayley. And then she went for the cover only for Bayley kick out. And then she went for another flying crossbody off the top rope to Bayley and then went for the cover only for her to kick out again. Then Nikki done a flying crossbody on Bayley on the ring. Then she picked her up only for Bayley to ram her into the ring apron and threw her across to the plastic banners. Then she brought her back into the ring for a pinfall cover, but she managed to kick out. Bayley was then in control of the match, and at one point she had Nikki in the pocket of the ring apron and delivered some right hands to her. Then Nikki popped up on the other side of the ring apron and was delivering some right hands to Bayley while she was inside of the apron with her. The both women were back into the ring and Nikki had Bayley in the crossface submission. Bayley managed to break out of the hold and she delivered a belly-to-belly suplex on Nikki, then went for the cover only for Nikki to kick out. Bayley then decided to superplex Nikki off the top rope and then went for a cover only for Nikki to kick out. Nikki was now in crucial control of the match and delivered certain moves to Bayley, and at one point she decided to go for a pinfall cover only for Bayley to kick out. Then Nikki delivered the neck breaker off the apron to Bayley, and both women were on the outside of the ground while the referee counted up to 10 until both women were back in the ring. So when it came towards the end of the match, it looked as though Sasha handed Bayley one of her rings. Then Sasha got up to the apron to get the referee's attention. Then Bayley used the ring that her friend Sasha gave her as a weapon on Nikki, and then she delivered the face plant to Nikki. They went for the cover, 1, 2, 3, and Bayley is still your SmackDown Women's Champion, and she won it clearly using dirty tactics. So yeah, I thought this was an okay match to see, and I wouldn't mind to see Nikki Cross as the Women's Champion in all honesty, as I do think she does actually put on decent matches, if I'm honestly telling you. But to be honest, I thought it was an okay match overall, that's what I'll say. Okay, so the first match of the card was Rey Mysterio and Seth Rollins. This has been somewhat of an emotional build-up that WWE is doing with this rivalry, as they're involving Rey's sons Dominic into the storyline and using elements of family emotion into the storyline. I like to claim that I have not seen an eye-for-eye match before, so I'm not sure what to expect from a match like this. Okay, so before the match started, Rollins came down to the ring with Pilers, as I assume that's what he's going to be using in this match with Rey, as he was waiting for Rey to come down to the ring. Rey's music hit, but he was not in sight at all. He eventually showed up behind Rollins and set him up for a 619, but Rollins broke out of it and he attempted to bring Ray into steel steps and he countered the move. Then Seth was in control of the match and attempted to make a move on Ray's eye, but Ray enabled it. Then Ray pulled out a table with a toolbox and was carrying a steel tool to use on Rollins until Rollins got the kendo stick and used it on Ray. Then Rollins hit a Falcon Arrow on Ray onto the apron. Then Rollins tried to get Ray's head into the corner of the steel steps, but he managed to break the hold. At this point, Rollins was in control of the match and he even attempted to use the tip of a kendo into Ray's eye, but Ray managed to evade it. And at one point in the match, Rollins used a rope to tie Ray's hand into the ring rope to extract his eye, but Ray once again managed to evade it. Then Rollins took a few shots at Ray using a kendo stick. Then Ray was in great position to hit a frog splash on Rollins. Then Ray broke apart a kendo stick and used a piece of fragment of the stick to extract Rollins' eye, but he managed to evade it. Then both men were outside of the ring and Ray hit Rollins with his own stomp finisher. Then he attempted to bring Rollins' eye to the corner of the steel steps, but Rollins evaded it using a low blow on Ray. Then Rollins picked up Ray and brought his already damaged eye into the corner of the steel post. Ray was then calling for a doctor and then the referee called the bell to end the match. So I would assume that Rollins was the winner of the match, and I thought this was an okay match as I've never watched a match of this kind of stipulation before, so it was something new to see this for the first time actually. So the fourth match of the pay-per-view was the Raw Women's Championship match. Asuka with the company of her friend Kairi Sane was defending her title against Sasha Banks with the company of her friend Bayley. So the match was underway and both women were applying certain moves on each other. Asuka was going to work on Sasha until she done her back statement submission finisher on her, but she managed to evade the move. Sasha went for a few covers on Asuka, but she managed to kick out of each fall. Then Asuka had Sasha in an armbar move only for her to break the hold. Then Sasha had Asuka in a torturous submission using her arms and fingers. Then she went for a cover only for Asuka to kick out. At this point, Sasha was in crucial control of that match and both were exchanging moves to each other in this match. Sasha then powerbombed Asuka to the plastic barricade and then brought her back into the ring to apply a frog splash. Then she went for a cover only for Asuka to kick out. Then Sasha immediately applied the bank statement on Asuka only for her to evade the submission hold. Then Asuka hit a German suplex, then another one, then hit a hip attack, then a cover on Sasha only for her to kick out. Sasha then hit Asuka with a knee strike, then went for a pinfall cover only for her to kick out. At this point in the match, Asuka was having to execute a super German suplex on Sasha, but she landed on her feet and got her into the turnbuckle. And then she was attempting a high flying move, and she slipped down to the mat with an injury to her leg. Sasha was then determined to continue the match as her and Asuka were exchanging right hands to each other. Sasha had the women's tag team title in her hand, but the referee was not allowing her to use the title in the match as she would be disqualified. Then out of nowhere, Asuka mistakenly spit screen mist into the referee's eyes. Then Sasha's friend Bayley came into the ring and hit Asuka with her championship. Then Bayley removed the referee's shirt to make a pinfall cover for Sasha and Asuka. She counted to 3, and then she told the timekeeper to ring the bell, and then she basically awarded her best friend the Raw Women's Championship. So yeah, Bayley is once again using dirty tactics to help her friend out. So, well, I thought this was a compelling match, and I thought it was an okay overall, but it ended with a very dirty finish, I might say. So, the fifth match of the pay-per-view was a WWE Championship match. Drew McIntyre was defending his WWE title against his former friend, Dolph Ziggler. Before the match was underway, Ziggler revealed to McIntyre the stipulation of the match and said that the stipulation is an Extreme Rules match and he's only allowed to use weapons in the match and not his opponent, or he would be disqualified. So then the match was officially underway and McIntyre was going to work on Ziggler and didn't seem to be phased by the Royal advantage at all. Ziggler introduced a chair into the match, but McIntyre removed it out of the ring as he knew he couldn't use it in the match. Ziggler then set up a table on the outside of the ring and McIntyre was going to suplex him onto the table, but he realised he would be disqualified, so he insisted to suplex him on the other side of the floor. Then he brought Ziggler into the ring and applied the powerbomb onto him. He went for the cover only for Ziggler to kick out at a quick fall. Then Ziggler then hit a low blow on McIntyre. Then he brought a collection of steel chairs into the ring and took a few shots to the back of McIntyre with a steel chair. Then he went for a cover for him only for him to kick out the fall. Then McIntyre knocked Ziggler into the announce table at ringside. Then McIntyre was about to put Ziggler through the announce table, but Ziggler evaded it and hit a famouser to him on the arena floor. Then both men were back in the ring executing a set of submission holds on each other. Then both men were outside of the ring and McIntyre catapulted Ziggler into the plastic fencing. Then he brought Ziggler into the ring and hit an Alabama slam on him. Then McIntyre was about to hit a claymore on Ziggler, but he halted the move using a steel chair shot to the leg and hit a zigzag on him. He then went for the cover only for McIntyre to kick out. Then both men were outside the ring, and Ziggler super kicked McIntyre, and he was laid out on the setup table. And then Ziggler went up to the top rope of the ring to hit an elbow drop to McIntyre through a table. The referee then counted up to 10 for McIntyre to get back into the ring, and he managed to get back inside before the count of 10. Then Ziggler hit a famous a zigzag and a heavy move on Drew, and then went for the cover on the victorious kick out of 2.5. Then Ziggler was getting a bit frustrated that he didn't get the win over McIntyre, and he decided to go for a super kick on him until he counted it into a claymore. He then went for the cover on him. 1, 2, 3. Drew McIntyre is still your WWE champion. So my overall thoughts on this match was pretty good, as I thought this was the most enjoyable match I saw on this pay-per-view, and I would say it was pretty good. So the final match of the pay-per-view was a non-title match of the Wyatt Swamp match. Braun Strowman was going up against Bray Wyatt, and this was a cinematic match of some type. Strowman arrived at this deserted place, and he saw his old companion Wyatt, and then he looked at a sign saying "Abandon all hope, ye who enter here." Then a masked man came to attack Strowman. Then he hit him with a few moves, and then Strowman was calling for Bray Wyatt to show himself. And then out of nowhere, he saw a double person of himself. And then he was attacked with a spade. Then Strowman is in this house chain tied to a chair. Then Bray Wyatt comes out holding a light lamp with his entrance music playing in the background. Then him and Braun have a conversation, and he says his success is temporary, and he is where he is today because of him. And then a person holding a snake brings it near to Strowman, and then he passes on him. Then he finds himself outside the near fireplace, and the two masked men approaches Strowman, and then he takes them both out. Then a man with a spade comes to him, and he takes him out as well with his own spade. Then Strowman kicks him near the fireplace, and he sets a light. Then he sees his girlfriend Alexa Bliss in his imagination. Then out of nowhere, Bray Wyatt comes out and digs his fingers into Strowman's eyes. Then he chokeslams into the board into the river. Then Strowman enters the water, but then suddenly Bray Wyatt hits him from behind with a rowing stick, and he brings Strowman's head into the water for a long period of time until he eventually jumps out of the water, and he climbs up to shore, and he sees children in his imagination. Then Bray Wyatt was back on shore, and he went on the assault on Strowman with a bat, and then he boots Wyatt into the lake, and then he stares at the water until Wyatt gets his hand on Strowman and brings him into the water, and the pay-per-view is officially over. So I felt like I was watching a drama series instead of a wrestling match, so it's pretty difficult to give an opinion for this particular match, but it was still a good edgy element they used in the cinematic match, and I thought it was quite entertaining in some aspects, so yeah. To give a summary for this pay-per-view, my two favourite matches on the show was the WWE Championship match and the Wyatt Swamp match, and my least favourite match or moment of the pay-per-view was MVP claiming himself as the US champion, and I thought this pay-per-view was pretty okay overall, and I enjoyed a couple of matches on the show. So thank you for watching my review, and I will be doing more reviews for the next pay-per-view, which will be SummerSlam, which will be next month, around 24th or so. So take care and goodbye.